Hello, everybody. Today, I've got my buddy Zakk Bosserman in here with me, and so he was showing me through his Showfile from his work. He's worked for OAR, for American Authors, Leanne Womack, Parmalee, Sleeping with Sirens. Anyways, he was showing me through the file and just some stuff that he did for some of the needs he had on that show. And me not being from a jam band background, I never would have had need for this particular feature, but I thought it was really cool, and I thought it'd be really cool to share with some of you guys. So with that introduced, I'm going to hand it over to Zakk to explain his work.
All right, how you doing, guys? I wanted to show you guys a quick thing that I use. Effectively, what I'm doing on some of my shows is changing the colors, in particular colors, of pre-programmed shows without affecting the programming. So I'm going to show you real quick what that means. Right now I'm running a basic cue stack, 2 cues out. Right now they're running in kind of this warm color here, but very quickly I can change it to something cool. I can change it to neon. I can change it to any color I want without affecting the programming. And I'll show you really quickly how that works. When I'm programming my shows, I do not use the basic color palettes, store them into the cue stack, and we're good to go. What I do instead is I record all of my cues based off these 5 colors here. I call it color 1 through 5. Color 1 is usually my base wash. Color 2 and 3 are things I can use for spots and beams and cool effects. Color 4 is a thing you can use for specials, for LEDs, whatever. And color 5 is a highlight color. I tend to use white a lot, but you can do whatever you want. And instead of changing the colors and then storing sequences, all the sequences record off of these colors, and then all I do is copy data into those 5 color presets, and that's where the color comes from the show. If you've done a color effects generator, you know how this works. You've done it before. So I've got one here that I use. I've got a spot low and a spot high, and you set a sequence that copies the color from here into here. It's the same principle, we're just applying it to a different thing. So I'm going to pull up this one here that's Cool Mag that we're looking at right now. I'm going to pull up the full screen so you can see what the macro is running here. All I'm doing is copying color presets at a bunch of different other presets, overriding it, and then running a macro that labels everything. There's a bunch of stuff happening here. Don't worry about that yet. We'll get to it, but you can just see we're copying some preset at 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 are these color 1 through color 5 presets. So if you wanted to make a different one, let's say we want to make something that's a bit on the warm side of what we're doing here as opposed to all these different colors, I would do something like a red, orange, yellow, CTO, and white. These are the primary colors I use a bunch, so we know we're looking at 2, 3, 4, 14, and 1. I've got a template for this macro already stored that's hanging out here. So all we got to do is where it says 4 dot blank, we're going to add in our color. We're going to add in the preset number. So it's 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.14, and 4.1. So now we have this thing here that we're going to call warm because it seems to work for me. So now if we go and look at our screen here, currently we're in these colors. We're in this pink, yellow, green, orange, and more pink. If I hit warm, all of a sudden everything changes to a different color set. So this is a great trick for, particularly on, we had a bunch of songs, these guys would play anything off their catalog at any time. And some songs they wanted a specific way. Some songs are like, no, we want this one to be, this song we like in blue. We've been doing it in blue forever, and we're comfortable that way. Some songs, they don't care. But sometimes the way they run a set list, they'll write out a set list, but then vibe off the crowd and they'll, make changes on the fly. They're not thinking about what the color scheme is. They're thinking about what music works best for the vibe the crowd is giving them. So that's what we're here for. We're here to think about that for them so they don't have to. If you're in the 4th song in a row that makes blue, cyan and white a big feature, the show starts to look a bit repetitive. And sometimes you just don't want that. So you come up with this. You're in the same cue list here. I've got this cue stack. It changes to different, using these 5 colors for different things. In this case, I've got washes on yellow, spots on white, beams on whatever, and you can change that. So let's take beams, make them orange. It looks like they were already there, and it's just renders out silly. Let's make it red just for whatever. We'll change this to red. So there you go. So now as you go through and you've got your different color sets, maybe you're doing changes for each song, but the colors never change. You're still using the same base colors. If I go back and change it to cool and magenta, it's the exact same, and it's just pulling the data from these guys. Just what's in there has changed. This opens up a lot of possibilities for you if you want to change the feel of a song on the fly, or they do this song the same way every time, but when they did it in rehearsals and the way they wanted to do it, it was a big heavy driving rock song that felt very bright and happy and open, and for whatever reason they made a change on the fly during the course of the tour that they wanted to make it more of a moody song. Traditionally, you'd have to go through and reprogram that whole song or program it all anew. In this situation, all you got to do is change what the color is. So you can go really quickly and make big changes to pre-programmed stuff without affecting the programming and still having the same programming you expect. Another flexibility you get out of this is a lot of options. There's a reason why we had all these extra things in here. We're not just copying to color 1 through 5. We're copying to all these different variants down here that I added in. So I have this set here, color 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4 flip, 5 flip. It's the exact same colors that you have here, just in reverse order. So 5 is 1, 4 is 2, and so on and so forth. And all you got to do is have a different macro. In this case, this is a quick macro we came up with to copy preset 32 through 36 at 16 through 20. So we're copying 32 through 36 at 16 through 20. So all these are being stored by the main color change macro in a bunch of different places in a bunch of different orders. And then very quickly, I'm able to get different variants of that same color. So if I pull up this main hybrid look again, I've got the original color we talked about, and then a reverse version of that same color, and then different variations on that same color that's always pulling from these 5 or coming from down here. So instead of color variant 3, instead of being from here, we're pulling it from here. Here's color variant 3. This gets you a lot of quick and dirty ways to make big changes to your show without having to get stuck in the same rut and the same colors and being able to change stuff. And that's kind of that's the whole thing. I wanted to, let you guys know what it is I'm working with here and see if, if this is something you guys can apply to shows you're running, or see if you can do different things with it.
So yeah, I mean, like that I think Zakk pretty much has covered the concept top to bottom. Like he's saying, it's the same approach as what a lot of us have seen for chases or for effects engines. But it's coming at it from a different angle. Allows you to, as he was saying, you can change a song on the spot if you don't want to do the 5th blue song in a row when you're working with a band that isn't going to do the exact same set list every night, or might not even know what they're about to play in 2 songs. Or as we're looking through these flip and variations, gives you the opportunity to do bump buttons that all will coincide with your existing color scheme, without having to put any additional thought into it. Once you change your color scheme, all your bump colors are going to be updated with it.
Yeah, and that's actually a good one. I do use that a lot. I have all of these macros on an exec, on my X keys, on the bottom right of my console, that go between all these different, so each one, so it'll be a two cue stack that is color flip and then goes back to the original, so that very quickly I can tap through and get all these different looks. In the case of, there's a lot of, there's 2 horn players and they trade solos a lot. It's a neat effect you can do to, change the vibe versus for who's taking the solo at any particular time, especially if it's like a trading bars thing. It works great for any kind of flash. You can do this instead of strobing. You can do this instead of a lot of other things and change colors around. It also just gives you a few more options. So if you're programming a song and you're not sure what color you want the song to look like, you can program it based on one color. I tend to program based off of these kind of cools and blues. And then as I'm going through that, I can go, okay, I've made my cue stack. Now let's see what this looks like in different colors. And then you can come out to what looks really good for this song. This is also a great thing to use if you're working with an EDM artist who comes to you one day in the middle of a tour and says, hey, had this great thing on a day off and we completely redid the visuals. You're going to love it. It's, it was blue and purple and now it's red and pink and white and it's super bright and fiery. And isn't that going to look great? You just have to reprogram this whole song. If you've done EDM shows, you know that some of those cue stacks can be 100 or more cues. And that doesn't sound like a good time to do when you're in the middle of already trying to run your show. So this way you can just change the color of that whole song and give the artist who wants to see something new completely on the fly. Here's a new thing, pow. You're in, and you didn't have to do hardly anything to it besides just change 5 colors right here.
Which you've always got, the replace tools if you know which color palettes are used, but there's also always those times where you found out the visuals got changed when the song started and nobody told you. So
yeah, and
that's always a good one,
right? And yeah, replacing it is great if you're going through your programming and if you've got time to program. Sometimes you just don't have time. Sometimes a motor failed on the load in, and so all your programming time is gone because you were trying to troubleshoot why that motor wouldn't go up instead of down. And then, once you finally got everything figured out, now you've got, 11 minutes before the support, your first support act is supposed to go on stage. So this gives you a lot of really quick options to do things on the fly that don't change what you've already worked on.
Yeah, it gives you the flexibility of punt colors without having to actively punt your colors over cue stack stuff, which, especially if you're also trying to call spots, will free up a lot of mental resources.
Yeah, it frees up a lot of brain bandwidth, especially if you're not looking to see what you're selecting in your programmer, and you moved a bunch of spots onto your downstage center in a gobo because that looks super cool, and then you wanted to quickly make color changes, and then you got to get out of that. Well, there's a lot of ways that can come crashing down on you in a hurry. This is an easy way for, at least for colors, you can make big changes very quickly without affecting any actual programming, and it gives you the flexibility to still have the same show that the artist wants without having to get in a rut on stage, particularly in a more free-flowing show environment. So
before we get too deep into a podcast level of tangents, you guys get the concept. We were talking before we shot this about all the various ways. I mean, you could extrapolate, you could extend this down to doing all of your palettes if you're trying to go down the super pre-formatted thing. I think some TV guys might even do that, having kind of like their pre-formatted show, and then you can just swap some other types of presets in there. But like, super cool concept. It's another approach for something that I think is familiar to a lot of us already. So hopefully that kind of gives you guys some new ideas on just another approach you can take towards something. Again, it's MA. There's never like a right or a wrong way. I mean, there are wrong ways. If you did everything with hard values, I would have to argue you did it the wrong way.
Hey man, every machine's a smoke machine.
But there are plenty of right ways to do it, I should say. There's no one absolute way you have to do everything. So just another idea from another perspective of another MA user. If anybody else has any cool ideas that they've come up with, like, I'd love to see them, and every now and then show some of them off. But before I close out, Zakk, did you have anything else to add to it?
I mean, not as far as this goes. There's all kinds of fun things you can do. Especially if you're one of those guys running page macros, all that kind of stuff, you can add these in and program based on that, and then just make quick changes there. If there's other stuff people are done with this, I would love to see what you guys can come up with. I know there's a million options for making stuff like this, and please hit us up. We'd love to see more and more of this.
So if you guys want to reach out to Zakk, you can contact him at retinalabuse@gmail.com. It'll be in the description on this video. You guys already know my info if you're seeing this video. So I'm hoping to do some more of these kinds of things soon. I've been putting off recording my clone setup for however long we've been in quarantine. And, all things and stuff, social media. Reach out to Zakk, reach out to me, any cool ideas. Geoff Designs Facebook page. I'm not much of a whatever. I'm just going to let this trail off. So hit us up with any cool ideas and all that. And I'm going to shut up and you guys enjoy your programming in isolation.
Happy programming, y'all.